Fancy owning a village? Well, then you might consider buying this village, Drumaness, in the heart of Mid-Down. That is, if you have £35,000. It's a very good bargain too. A pretty little village with a great heart, set in a quiet backwater of green acres just a few miles from Ballynahinch. But there's just one thing wrong. The heart has stopped beating, and the village is dying. This was the heart, the mill, around which the village has grown up. A place of work which provided over 100 jobs, a social centre, a playground for the young, and a sports centre famous for its performers throughout the length and breadth of Ireland. Today the mill and warehouses are part of lot number 1. That's how the agents now describe the village. There are also 82 houses, a school attended by about 35 pupils, and a little shop and a post office, all for sale. The managing director of the mill describes the closure as a sad day for the village. But what do the residents think? Peter McAvoy, you're an ex-mill worker.
Yes, that's right.
Are you shocked by the news?
I'm indeed, very much so. For I was employed myself at one time in her, which the wages were £2.50 a crown a fortnight, and I thought it was very good at that time. I came on the bicycle, but I had to earn it first before I could come. A young man, but still with all, I miss it a lot.
How hard is it going to hit the village?
I think it's going to affect a lot, Mr. Dawes. I do believe it will, right enough. For there's talk of employment coming, but there's no sign of any yet, right enough.
What about the young people here? How's it
That's
going
the
to affect
unfortunate part of it. Like, there's a lot of young families coming up, and we've been very much thought of to work here, like, right enough, for a few months till they get better jobs. But it's going to be missed a lot.
Peter, Drumaness has got a great name for itself in the world of sport.
Yes, the world of sport, which I attend a lot. Football and cricket. I'm a great cricket man. Always was, and we must hit a lot.
Drumaness is a great cricket town.
Yes,
marvellous. How's the ground going to how is it
well,
going
that's
to
the unfortunate part, you see. They don't know what is really going to happen yet. Like, if they knew, they'd be all right. But they're running a few jumble sales and things, I think, to get money gathered up to see if they can buy the ground at the moment. But further than that, they don't know right enough.
But nevertheless, you think it's a bad blow?
It's a bad blow, last of that. Yes, it is indeed, sir. Oh, it's desperate, desperate.
Someone else who started at the mill when she was still only a child is Mrs. Cecilia Smith.
Yes.
Cecilia, how old were you when you started at the mill?
12-year-old.
Were you still at school?
Oh, well, one day to school and now in the mill.
How surprised were you when you heard that the mill was going to close?
Oh, no, I was very vexed. Very vexed.
What did the mill mean to the village?
Oh, no, it mean the quite a bit to it. Yes, I did. It was a grand job.
What's it like now that the mill is closed?
Oh, it's very dull. Very dull.
Do you miss the noise of the machines?
Miss the noise. Miss everything. Make the people going back and forth.
What do you think will happen to the village?
Oh, no, I think we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
You're not worried?
No, not a bit. But we'll not be put out.
And then there's Mrs. Agnes Mackay, who at one time had no fewer than 5 daughters and 2 sons, all working at the mill. Mrs. Mackay, did you know anything about the closing of the mill?
No, I wasn't aware of it at all.
Did it come
I got a bit of a shock whenever I heard it come very sudden.
What's your reaction?
Well, we're all sorry till know it closing.
How much do you think the village will miss the mill?
Oh, it'll miss it badly. It's missing it badly as it is. It'll miss it very badly.
Fanny, you were employed at the mill for 61 years, is that right?
61 years, yes.
How old were you when you started?
10-year-old.
10 years old?
10-year-old. And then I was put out to that school 11 months.
Yeah.
That school. And one day at school and one day in the mill.
Was it hard work? Was it hard work?
No, it wasn't hard work. I was a rover and a spreader and a thrower.
How much did you earn?
For the 11 months, 7 and 6pence.
7 and 6 for how long?
A fortnight. Till I was 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Then I got on full time.
And how much did you earn then?
Well, I had 16 and 6pence for a fortnight.
Did you think you were well off?
Oh, I thought I was well off. I got the 16 and 6pence. Yeah, I think I was. I wasn't so bad.
Are you sorry to hear that the mill is closed down?
Oh, I think I was. I cried about the mill being down. And me so long on it. I didn't did.
Well, there's one rather sad thing about all this. What happens if the village falls into the wrong hands? It's happened in the south, where land was bought up by foreigners and then barred to the locals. So what's to prevent the same thing happening to the 500 people who live here in the little village of Drumaness?
Man, when I was a boy, many's the time I did this, and I hated it. It was hard labour, at least an hour of it. Oh, I wonder if you can guess what I'm doing. Take a wee bit of a wider look. Well, have you got it now? Well, if you don't know, I'm taking a brash at the churn. That is, I'm taking a turn at it. And in your grandfather's and great-grandfather's day in the countryside, any farmer of any note that had cattle, the wife churned, and she turned maybe about once a week in a place something like this. And we're going in to have a look at some other rather interesting churns. Meet Dr. Alan Gailey, keeper at the Folk Museum at Kiltraw. Indeed, this cottage belongs to the Folk Museum, and as the late Matt Mulcahy would say, Dr. Gailey is a very knowledgeable boy about churns. Dr. Gailey, we'd better let them see the other side of the churn, the bottom paddle part.
This is the business end of it.
Now, when I was in Tyrone, it was a different shape to that. There were holes all around it, you know. Do you think in different districts they had different patterns? Did they copy each other?
They seem to have done, but of course the pattern is functional because this is providing the cutting edges that cut through the milk and therefore separate the butterfat from the liquid.
Well, now, getting rid of the paddle, there were an awful lot of superstitions about churns and churning, weren't there?
Oh, there's a tremendous amount of folklore in connection with milk and the safekeeping of cattle and butter making.
I heard one from the Mourns that if the butter wouldn't break, a device was to put a burning sod of turf underneath the churn.
Yes, and there are many other things could be put under the churn, sometimes silver.
Yes. I've heard of a horseshoe.
Yes, yes indeed.
Well now, we've got a churn here, presumably, which I've never seen before. Would you tell us about this?
This is a rather interesting adaptation of the ordinary upright dash churn, because we've got here a simple angled lever in effect, which translates the up and down motion of the staff here to a backwards and forwards one of the hands. Look, I'll just let you have a look. You see like this?
Oh, yes.
It's basically a quite simple form of lever.
Well, do you think that would be easier to work in the staff churn?
Yes, because it's easier to move backwards and forwards than up and down.
Well, do you think it could make the butter break any quicker?
I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know.
See, when we talk about the butter breaking, this means that the little yellow blobs begin to form, which make the butter, and they get bigger and bigger, and you get quite big lumps. But it used to be a very anxious time churning, waiting for the butter to break, and a very muscle-destroying time. Now, Dr. Gilly, could you show us another kind of churn?
Yes, indeed. We've here got an appliance which consists of a spring-loaded lever. The lever comes right through the box. The box contains a coiled spring. And what we're doing is, by pulling down on the lever, we're acting against the spring, and the recoil of that spring brings the lever back up again. And this is assisting, really, the up and down motion of the churn staff, making the work just that wee bit easier. The appliance was made by a local craftsman by the name of Johnston in Lurgan, probably sometime early in this century. This is one of the very simple applications. We're using a large, heavy spring. We pull down against it, and the recoil brings it back up. And we've got our churn staff attached here in the middle. This appliance, simply known as a spring pole, was used fairly widely in the south and southeast of the province, just the same place, in fact, Charlie, as the glakes were used. You know, Charlie, this was possibly one of the most interesting of the applications, mechanical applications, to the problem of getting this upright churn going up and down. We are using basically rotary motion running through a system of beams, and we've got the additional use of this heavy cast iron flywheel, so that once you get the thing in motion, it requires a bit of effort to start it, but once it's started and going, it requires very little additional effort to keep it going. It appears to be quite unique. We know of no other example of this kind of thing. Probably it was made by a local carpenter and a blacksmith working together. And it illustrates, I think, the ingenuity of the countrymen at work here.
You know, the country people were quite ingenious about inventing things. But in spite of the fact that some may regret the passing of the old ways and the old customs, isn't it great to think that instead of churning today, you can walk into your grocer or supermarket and buy yourself a pound of butter? But the country ones weren't the only ones that were good inventors. Do you remember wartime when we all saved the tops of the milk and churned butter? Well, there's a nice wee churn now was invented for wartime. You put the top of the milk in as much as you could, and then you just turn this, and the paddles churned, and made darn good butter too.